It is said that given this marvelous gift of life, the biggest risk of all is to take no risk at all.
Dr. Bernie Dahl, a graduate of Wheaton College in Illinois with degrees in chemistry and Bible, earned an MD degree from Cornell University Medical College and served as an Epidemic Intelligence Service Officer with the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. Fresh out of the CDC, he was named the Chief of Pathology at Eastern Maine Medical Center. During his career over the next 25 years, he served as an innovative leader and entrepreneur, lecturer, and consultant. In 1995, Dr. Dahl retired early from practice and focused on writing, lecturing, and consulting on leadership issues and skills with a focus on strategic planning. Having climbed high mountains throughout the world, from Kilimanjaro in Africa to Mount Elbrus in Russia, from Popo and Ixta in Mexico to Aconcagua in Argentina, and this past April to the Mount Everest Base Camp, he continued his passion for mountaineering, an activity that almost ended his joyous early retirement. Today, Dr. Dahl will share some insights gained during his near-death experience and rescue on Mount Washington in a presentation entitled Lessons for Living from a Mount Washington Misadventure, for to know how to live, one must first learn how to die.
October 23rd, Mount Washington, New Hampshire. It was truly a dark and stormy night. For me, perhaps the darkest and stormiest night of my entire life, because I came within minutes, 5 minutes, of death, my death, for my rescuers were about to give up. Now, as a physician for almost 30 years, I developed a very close professional relationship with death and dying, but certainly not a personal relationship with dying, and certainly not with my death. Now, during that long afternoon, evening, and night, as I lay waiting for rescue with whiteout conditions and hurricane-force winds, and then, having pretty much given up hope, waiting for my death, I had abundant time to think about living and a long time to think about dying. It was Boswell who wrote that the threat of dying tends to focus the mind. It has also been said since ancient times that to know how to live, you must first learn how to die. Now, needless to say, I'm glad to be here. In fact, the way I've been living lately, I'm pretty much glad to be anywhere. Now, today I want to share with you some insights I gained from that mountaintop experience, things that you might want to take apart, put together, and apply to your own life without having to have a near-death experience. We will use death as a springboard and a catalyst for this session. But today we want to celebrate life, the most fabulous gift of all. Now, as I came to the small sign, it said 3/10 of a mile. Take a right, and you will find the auto road, and that will be the safe way home. So I did. But as I was doing that, I was ascending the mountain, and I was heading into the wind. And the wind became heavier and heavier, and the snow became heavier. And eventually I had a whiteout condition where I could not see the next cairn, the stone pile that marks the trail. And at that point, I knew I was in trouble. I knew I was in real trouble. It was around 3:30 in the afternoon, and so I decided that I would stay there, and I would take out my bivy sack made out of this thin, aluminized space blanket material. And I got in that, and I climbed down on the downwind side of this tall pile of rocks to wait out the storm. It is said in New England that if you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes, it will change. But then I realized that I had in my sack my cell phone. I never take my cell phone, never have on a trip like this. Asked the basic question in a rural setting, does the thing work at all? So I took the phone out, dialed, nothing, dialed, nothing, dialed, nothing. After about 5 attempts at 911, I reach a live person, not an answering machine. And I share with them briefly and dramatically, Dahl, Mount Washington, dying. And then all I could do was wait. Now, I assumed that since I knew I was near the auto road, and I told them my itinerary, that they would simply drive up the auto road and they would escort me to the auto road, into the vehicle, and we'd go home and we'd forget the whole thing, and I'd tell nobody about it. It'd be a secret for just a few of us. Now, little did I know, however, they had closed the auto road that previous week. And that's a snowcat that services the mountain observatory, the weather observatory, and the TV station was 25 miles away in Gorham, not yet prepared for the winter. So I stayed in my cocoon. I was there for about an hour and a half, making a few phone calls, trying to touch bases with people. And eventually I felt, gee, the wind is awful loud. And that snow was starting to cover my body, accumulating on the surface. So I decided that I would slowly and carefully inch up onto the surface, because if my body was covered with snow, they would not be able to see me, my rescuers, which were about to come any minute. So as I did, I climbed up slowly. Probably took 10, 15 minutes. Then I peeked out the end of this enclosed bivy sack, and a gust of wind filled the sack. Then I struggled to re-envelope myself in this sack. And another gust of wind came, blew the bag up, and tore it from my body, and took it down, 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 towards Huntington Ravine. Eventually, I pretty much gave up hope of being rescued. It was late at night, approaching midnight. And I started to plan for death. And as a physician and a pathologist, I knew about death. And what's amazing as I look back on this thing, that it was not a process that was morose. There was no self-pity, no anger, no tears. But I did have a number of deep, deep feelings, concerns. And probably two of them that I share with you. One was embarrassment. I was about to die in my own backyard at less than 6,000 feet, and I've been up to 21,600 feet. Imagine my fellow members of the Appalachian Mountain Club, what a laugh they'll get out of that. The other thing was a sort of a partly embarrassment, partly guilt, but it was the most important experience I had up there, the deepest concern. I was about to leave my wife, Elaine, a widow. For that simple one-day hike on Mount Washington was turning into a very, very selfish act. Now, a lot of people have shared their feelings about that with me. So what kind of a take-home message do I have for you people? What did I learn on that mountain from my near-death experience that I might share with you that you could take home? I boiled it down to three things that I think are important. Number one, be prepared to die. Now, nobody wants to address that. But it's sort of a Boy Scouts motto plus, be prepared to die. Have your home life in order, your wills and your insurance. Have succession plans for your group, your business, your partners. Might as well take a few minutes and tune up your spiritual life. You never know. You may be nearer to God than you realize. So number one, be prepared to die. Number two, have a plan to live. And that's what we spend a lot of energy on. We say, hey, write down your personal strategic plan. Sure, have a mission statement. Have a vision statement. And then do your strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. And I'll do all these classic things. But before you do, focus on your action plan or specific tasks for your life. I recommend that you take a step back and look at your values. Look at your needs versus your wants. Look at your opportunities. Look at the challenges. Look at the risk and what kind of risk tolerance you have. And then go back and revisit your strategic plan after you have developed a value statement. For everything you do, every word you say, every thought you have, every action you have, every decision you made is driven by your values. So number three, then, is implementation. As a strategic planner, implementation is the biggest problem. People don't follow through. Just do it is what the Nike people tell us. Better yet, do it now. People move away, opportunities change, people move on, some people die, you may die. So I'd advise you to take some reasonable and rational risks in life, but do it now. It is said that given this marvelous gift of life, the biggest risk of all is to take no risk at all. So as I close, I would like to share with you a brief poem from Apollinaire. A poem that addresses challenges, opportunities, and risks. It's a poem that I share with the most advantaged people in the history of mankind, you and me. We have been given so much, starting with the wonderful gift of life. And all the wonderful things that we've been given, what have we done with these gifts? What will we do with these gifts today, tomorrow, and all tomorrows that we are given? From Apollinaire. Come to the edge of the cliff, he said. No, we're afraid. No, come to the edge of the cliff, he said. No, we're afraid. Come to the edge of the cliff. They came. He pushed them. They flew. You are all eagles. Keep flying. And if you're really courageous, come fly with me.